Imagine waking up one morning and deciding that for the next 365 days, you will eat nothing but potatoes. No bread, no meat, no fruit, not even a single leafy green. Just potatoes, boiled, baked, or mashed 3 times a day, every single day. It sounds like a punishment from some ancient folklore, or maybe a bizarre reality TV challenge. But in 2016, an Australian man named Andrew Taylor did exactly that. He wasn't a daredevil looking for internet fame or a gambler who lost a bet. He was a man desperate to take back control of his health, his mind, and his life.
So, Andrew, in 2016, you ate this many potatoes every day for an entire year.
Yeah, well, all my life I'd struggled with weight, and I was really good at losing weight and then putting it all back on. And I realised one day that my problem was an addiction issue rather than a weight issue. So I figured that if an alcoholic should quit alcohol, then maybe a food addict should quit food.
At the time, Andrew was overweight, depressed, and trapped in a cycle of compulsive eating. He tried diets before, countless ones, but they all ended the same way, with him spiraling back into old habits. So he decided to strip food down to its barest minimum. His thinking was simple. If food was his addiction, then he had to treat it like an addict treats alcohol. Go cold turkey, or in his case, cold potato. The idea sounded insane even to him. But the potato had one thing going for it. It was cheap, filling and oddly complete when it came to nutrients. And so, on January 1st, 2016, he cooked his first plate of plain boiled potatoes, and his year-long experiment began.
The early days were the hardest. Every instinct told him this was a mistake. His taste buds screamed for variety. He craved salt, sweetness, crunch, and texture. The first week was a battlefield, not of hunger, but of desire. Friends mocked him, strangers called him reckless. Even his doctors were skeptical, but Andrew kept going. He discovered quickly that the potato could be more versatile than people gave it credit for. Mashed, baked, boiled, roasted, even blended into soups. He used minimal seasonings like tomato sauce or soy milk, but he stayed true to his vow, nothing but potatoes. As days turned into weeks, something strange began to happen. His cravings dulled. The constant background noise of wanting food, pizza, chocolate, fried chicken, began to fade. For the first time in years, he felt free. Instead of thinking about food 24/7, he thought about his life, his goals, his family. He had unlocked a strange superpower. Food had lost its grip on him. And while the mental clarity surprised him, the physical results were even more shocking. In the first month alone, he lost nearly 10 kilos. His energy spiked, his mood improved, and the world started paying attention to the man who seemed to be living proof that you could, quite literally, survive on potatoes. As the months went by, Andrew's story spread far beyond his small circle of friends. News outlets picked up the bizarre headline, "Man eats only potatoes for a year." He became a curiosity, a viral sensation. Interviews, TV appearances, podcasts, everyone wanted to know, how is this possible? Isn't he destroying his body? The truth was the opposite. Regular checkups showed his blood work was improving. His cholesterol dropped. His blood pressure stabilized. His risk markers for heart disease went down. Doctors were stunned. How could a man eating only potatoes be healthier than before? The answer was simple. Compared to his previous diet of processed junk food, the potato was practically a miracle vegetable. Packed with fiber, vitamins, minerals, and even protein, the humble spud carried him further than anyone expected. Still, he wasn't without critics. Nutritionists warned that the diet was too extreme. Some said it was dangerous. Others dismissed it as a stunt. But Andrew wasn't preaching potatoes as a forever solution. He called it a food rehab. It was never about becoming the poster child for potatoes. It was about breaking free from addiction. And in that sense, he was succeeding. Every kilo he lost, every craving that disappeared, every day he woke up without obsessing over food, felt like a victory. By the middle of the year, Andrew wasn't just lighter in body, he was lighter in spirit. But here's where the story takes a cinematic twist, because while his health improved, the world around him became louder. He was invited to speak at events, to share his journey with people who were desperate for change. Some saw him as a hero, others as a lunatic. Online forums debated him endlessly. Was he a genius who had cracked the code of human health, or just another fad dieter doomed to fail the moment he ate something other than potatoes? Andrew didn't care. What mattered was the transformation he felt inside. He had been in a dark place before, overweight, depressed, addicted to comfort food. Potatoes pulled him out of it one plate at a time. Still, temptation was always there. Birthday parties, holidays, family gatherings, tables full of cakes, meats and wines. And there he sat, with his Tupperware of mashed potatoes. Sometimes he felt like an outsider, almost alien, yet each time he refused temptation, his resolve grew stronger. He wasn't just eating potatoes, he was proving to himself over and over again that discipline was possible, and with that discipline came power. By month 9, Andrew had lost over 50 kilos. His body looked completely different, his face slimmer, his posture straighter. He radiated a confidence he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer the man who hid from mirrors. He was the man who conquered his demons with a potato fork. As the year approached its end, Andrew faced the question everyone was asking: what happens on day 366? Would he dive headfirst into burgers and fries? Would he binge on everything he had missed? Or would he cling forever to the potato, afraid to let go? The answer surprised people. When New Year's Eve finally arrived, Andrew ate his last meal of potatoes with a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had done it. 365 days. He didn't mark it with a wild feast. Instead, he transitioned carefully, introducing other plant-based foods back into his diet. Beans, vegetables, fruits. But not junk food, not the trapdoors that had caught him before. The potato year wasn't meant to be his new permanent lifestyle. It was the tool that gave him a clean slate, and that's exactly what it became. He carried the lessons with him, the discipline, the clarity, the understanding that food could be fuel rather than obsession. And more importantly, he carried the proof that radical change was possible, that if you dedicate yourself fully, even the most absurd idea, like living off potatoes, can change your life. Today, Andrew Taylor is remembered as the potato guy, but his story isn't really about potatoes. It's about transformation. It's about what happens when someone pushes themselves past the limits of comfort and discovers freedom on the other side. Yes, he lost over 50 kilos. Yes, he reversed health issues. But the real victory was internal. He broke an addiction. He silenced the constant craving that haunted him for years. He found a way to reclaim control. And maybe that's why his story resonates. Because deep down, everyone has their own version of too much. Too much sugar, too much screen time, too much dependence on something that feels impossible to escape. Andrew's experiment reminds us that sometimes the solution doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes it just needs to be extreme enough to break the cycle. The potato was his hammer, smashing the chains of his habits, and from the fragments of that broken cycle, he built a new life. Would living off potatoes work for everyone? Probably not. Would it be safe for years on end? Definitely not. But that was never the point. The point was to prove that change is possible, even when it sounds impossible. So the next time you look at a potato, don't just see a lump of carbs. See the story of a man who turned it into the most powerful tool of his life. And ask yourself what your potato might be.